For more perspective, we are joined by former senior diplomat, Ambassador Anil Wadhwa. Welcome, sir. Welcome to Read India. Appreciate you giving us your precious time. First of all, Ambassador, Prime Minister Modi at the BRICS summit in Rio described climate justice not just as a policy, but a moral duty for India. What does this stance mean in the context of global climate negotiations?
So India has been quite steadfast in demanding that there should be shared responsibility as far as climate change is concerned. And India has also taken a number of steps itself, which serve as an example for the others. In fact, Prime Minister, if you noticed, he outlined a number of goals that India has met even before time, which it had set for itself. And that itself goes to show the seriousness with which India takes the whole issues of climate change. One of the most important issues facing the climate transition, of course, has been the promise made by the developed countries to the developing countries for climate finance and transfers of technology, which has not taken place in the form and the way in which it was supposed to happen. And in many cases, these promises have been broken and word has not been kept. So this is what Prime Minister Modi wanted to highlight by saying that India has set the example, it has the moral responsibility and takes it very, very seriously for the rest of the world.
Yes, Ambassador Wadhwa, Prime Minister spoke about several key initiatives launched by India, Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam, International Solar Alliance, etc. But how do these diverse initiatives position India as a leader in global climate action, particularly within the BRICS framework and ahead of COP30 in November?
So India is one of the few countries which has actually taken concrete steps which others can follow. And, all these initiatives that the Prime Minister referred to and which you have just now also enumerated are ones which can be easily followed by the BRICS countries, first of all, and also the others going forward. And they all contribute to our collective effort that the world has towards mitigating the effects of climate change. Now, of course, it's another issue that a number of countries today are not very serious about the commitments that they had themselves had undertaken in the past. But Prime Minister Modi has been always talking about a lifestyle change, and life is one of those acronyms which he designed and also explained at various fora, for instance. Plus all the initiatives like tapping the sun for energy, etc., are all initiatives which are easy to follow, they're easy to be part of, and all this contributes collectively to mitigating the effects of climate change.
Ambassador Wadhwa, also, a few points to mention. BRICS leaders emphasized on empowerment of the global South. Tell us, what does this mean in the current geopolitical and economic landscape?
Well, I think this is a demand of the global South for quite a long time. First of all, the reform of the political institutions and the economic institutions which go with it, and that is why the Prime Minister specifically mentioned the UN Security Council, the Monetary Fund, and the World Bank, as well as the World Trading Organization, which must undergo reforms so that they can reflect what is happening today in the world rather than what happened in the past. And a number of countries, and he outlined that very clearly, have now come into a situation where they can play a much more meaningful role than the others who were original members and who actually dictate terms. In terms of the economic institutions, especially the World Bank and the IMF, that is where the voice of the global South is most needed. And that is because for all development issues and for all the requirements of the global South, like climate finance, for instance, you need to have a special attention. And otherwise, they will not be able to have any progress whatsoever in climate mitigation. And the same goes for the UN Security Council because it's the most powerful political body in the world. It is totally paralyzed because of the conflict within the P5 right now, and they hardly come to any decisions. In fact, the debates are reduced to we are reduced to a spectacle of making speeches, but no action results whatsoever. And we've seen that in major conflicts that have happened recently, starting from Ukraine and then Gaza, for instance,
Yeah.
which are directly affecting the developed world, the global south, because of rise in prices and also disruption of supply chains. So it's very important that these reforms are carried out as quickly as possible. And of course, BRICS is not something, not an organization which can implement all these reforms, but
Okay.
it's very important that it expresses its opinion, which is then implemented by the rest of the world.
Okay, yes. In fact, they expressed concerns about ongoing conflicts in many parts of the world. But Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke about the terrorism. Ambassador Wadhwa, BRICS leaders have jointly condemned the Pahalgam attack. Tell us, what significance does this unified stance carry in the broader context of the regional security?
This was one of the most comprehensive references that we have seen to the issue of terrorism in a grouping of this nature or equivalent nature. And I think India was able to put its viewpoint across very, very forcefully here. The formulations cover not just the condemning the whole issue of terrorism, including cross-border terrorism, but also making sure that those who perpetrate terrorism, who actually harbor terrorists, are those who are also punished for it. And plus, at the same time, after a long time, we've seen a reference in a communique of this sort to the UN Convention on Terrorism, mooted in 1996, which still is steeped in controversy because of a non-definition of terrorism issues. And I think, getting an emphasis back on that particular proposal of a convention is very important. Going forward, I think we will see more of such references to the convention, and also the fact that there's been a comprehensive reference this time to the whole issue of terrorism is extremely important as far as India is concerned.
Ambassador Wadhwa, just one last question before we leave you. With India preparing to take the BRICS leadership baton from Brazil, what fresh priorities and initiatives can we expect under India's presidency?
I think Prime Minister Modi was quite clear in making sure that when India takes over the presidency of BRICS, and in that context he made these four proposals, like the proposal on the new development bank, where all the projects must be demand based. Secondly, to set up a mechanism whereby the benefits of science and technology can be shared and can benefit the BRICS countries. Thirdly, to ensure that we collectively work towards the supply of critical minerals, for instance, and making sure that the supply chains are not disrupted. And finally, working towards a responsible AI, artificial intelligence, and making sure that everyone participates and is a beneficiary of that.
Right.
So these are the four main themes, I think, which will be carried forward into the Indian BRICS presidency. And at the same time, the whole agenda of the reform of the global system, along with localized payments in currencies, etc., along with the digital stack that India has been pushing, will all find a prominent place as we take over the presidency.
Absolutely, Ambassador Wadhwa. We'll leave it at that. Thank you for your insights.